Battle for the soul of America continues. In this moment of strength of our institutions and democracy, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, a free and independent press, and yes, our institutions and our communities like this museum, they matter more than ever.
That was President Biden speaking in Charleston, South Carolina yesterday, the last full day of his presidency. Joining us now, presidential historian and executive director of the George Washington Presidential Library, Lindsay Chervinsky. Thank you for joining us this morning. Just talk a little bit about, as you see President Biden there, a lot of conversation around his legacy. He tried to shape it in a speech last week. What do you think the legacy will be, at least in the early part?
Yeah, well, a lot of presidents do try and shape their legacy, and unless they have a lengthy post-presidential life like Carter, it's really hard to do. So, I think much of President Biden's legacy we don't know yet, because we don't know how the legislation is actually going to pan out, whether or not some of the difficult decisions he made will have that impact. We don't know how the foreign policy will shake out. And also, so much of what comes next is going to shape how we think about him. So it's really just too soon to tell with how we think of him.
And there's certainly been a lot of focus on what his life after the White House and after his decades in public service are going to be. One of the White House officials was on with us last week saying, you'll hear from him, stay tuned, but still pretty vague. And then, of course, there's what we're going to see later this morning, Donald Trump once again being sworn in. I think the fact that he's going to be doing so indoors inside the very Capitol where his supporters ransacked it when he lost 4 years ago is a parallel we can't overstate this morning. But what are you thinking about as we head into this next phase of Donald Trump in the White House?
Yeah, it's complicated because on one hand, I admire and I believe in the upholding of these institutions and these precedents and norms and the celebration that does go along with the pomp and circumstance of this type of day. It's really important to the survival of the institution. And yet, as you said, it would be odd to not acknowledge that the person who was coming into office was also the person that was involved in the only contested transition we've ever had. And, I saw a comment the other day that his supporters won't need directions because they've already been into the Capitol. And I think that's true. And so it's very much a weird sort of bittersweet day.
And then there's the way that you see President Biden, the other former presidents, all attending this inauguration, something that Trump did not do for Biden back in 2020. How do you think history will remember that piece of Biden's legacy and the way that he really has sought to bring back the peaceful transition of power in a very public way?
Well, I think history will applaud the effort to bring back the peaceful transfer of power. It is the bedrock of what it means to be a republic, is that's what we have. If you have a different type of transition, it's a different type of government. And yet, as he just said in that speech, that, there's a war for the spirit of America, and he was trying to save the soul of the nation. And if the threat is that dire, then how do you make nice with the person who is that threat? And so I do think it is a complicated question.
It's a conversation that I've frankly had with sources since Biden, or rather Kamala Harris, lost the election to Donald Trump, is how do you have an election that the ending phase of was calling Donald Trump a fascist and then inviting him to the White House to shake hands and talk about the job that he's coming into. There is a real dissonance, I think, for people. And so from a historical perspective, how would you explain it, even now? And I know it takes years to parse this stuff out.
Yeah, on one hand, I think it's a reflection of the strength of these practices and the institutions, that people feel the pressure to continue to uphold these norms, to take pictures with the person coming in, to have them over for tea, to shake their hand. And I think that is good, because that is what has allowed these institutions to survive for as long as they have. But on the other, I do think it causes people confusion, because they are understandably confused about why you would say this person is a threat and then smile in a picture with them. And so I do think people need to be a little bit more consistent about perhaps behavior while still upholding the norms and customs.
Yeah, consistency in behavior is certainly not a hallmark that we've come to expect from Trump in the White House or out. But then there's also what we're physically going to watch today and see. He's being inaugurated inside the Capitol. That hasn't happened since Reagan's second inaugural. What are you expecting to see? What are the parallels that we might see between this venerated Republican president in Reagan and now Trump on his way back in?
Well, the thing I'm most interested to see is Reagan was known for his sunny optimism, for proclaiming the United States as a shining city on a hill. I would like to believe that that's what Trump will do, and I hope that it is. But I think that is definitely a question mark I have.
Yeah, certainly a lot of conversation. We were having it this morning, too, right in the segment before you. Will the tone of this be more American carnage? He told our colleague Kristen Welker no, but we'll see ultimately when he gets up to the podium. Lindsay Chervinsky, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.